Hello, you guys. This is Carlos Super coming to you. I just finished a pretty long day at work, but I want to remain committed to what I told God that I'm gonna do to make sure that I do what He called me to do. And it brings a story to my mind about when. Well, let me give it to you in story form. And the reason why I'm doing it to you, I'll let you know near the middle or the end. Once upon a time, there was a man who was a king, and this king was raised in royalty. And as he was raised in royalty, he didn't know anything else, but he knew that his father and his stepbrother, they had slaves and they had people that worked for them and did things for them all their lives. And they had a pretty well set life so far as anything, didn't have a care in the world. Then he realized that his father wasn't his real father and that he wanted to go and find his people, to see his real people, that his birth mother's people, and find out how they are. And when he found them, he realized that they were slaves. And he was like, how is it that I can be living in luxury when they're living in slavery? So what he did, he ended up trying to figure out what his path of life was. So to make a long story short, he went into exile. Well, that's a term that the Bible used, that he just went on a journey to find out what God wanted him to do. So he came across this little well where there were women out there feeding, or not feeding, but watering their flock. And he stayed out there for some time. But one of the reasons why he went into exile is because he had committed a horrible crime, and he was running away from his stepdad because he thought his stepdad was going to probably kill him or do something bad to him. So he was just running away. That's what caused him to go in exile. But while he was in exile, God began to call him. God began to whisper to him. And he didn't say his name, but this particular individual saw a strange sight in the mountains, and he went over to see what it was. As he went over to see what it was, then he heard the voice of God call him. And long story short, God started to tell him what God wanted him to do for God. And he basically said, oh my God, I don't know how or if I can do that, God, because I can't hardly speak myself. And you want me to do that? And bottom line is, he was just saying, look, God, I don't want to do it. Can you get somebody else? And he said, no, you're going to do it because you can't speak. I'm going to take your brother and send your brother to help you. Well, that story is about Moses. And just like I put it in a story form like that for you guys, the Bible tells us to do that to our children. Impress it on our children's hearts in the form of when the Passover happened, guys. God told Moses, when your children ask, why are we celebrating this festival of Passover? Tell them that God sent a death angel and it hit everybody except the ones who were obedient to what God wanted them to do, which is basically put blood over the doorpost. And then that blood from the unspotted lamb over the doorpost, which was sprinkled with hyssop over the doorpost. When the death angel saw the blood of the lamb, he passed over all the Israelites' doors and saved their lives. But everybody who didn't have that blood over their door died. So God wanted them to tell that story to the children. So this Thanksgiving, guys, Tell the biblical stories to your kids. Let them know what God has done before, because we know he did it before and he'll do it again. But let them hear the biblical stories so that they can use that as their heritage of how God came through time and time again. And I believe God wanted me to hear that story to let me know, Carlos, you don't have no excuse. Any excuse that Moses gave, God said, okay, I'll send somebody to help you. I'll send this person. I'll send that. You have no excuse why you shouldn't do what God called you to do. Well, I'm sharing that story with you guys because that's what God told me. But during this Thanksgiving holiday, we need to make sure that we tell it in tell it in a story form where children can hear it. Okay, I have a 5-year-old and I have a 7-year-old, and I have told them stories like that. And then at the end, after I tell them that, I say, hey, that story really happened, and it happened in the Bible. And then we watched the story of Noah. I told them that story, and then we watched a movie of it so they can make it in their minds, so it can be clear to them. Because you raise up a child in the way that he or she should go, so that when they're old, then they won't depart from it. Right? So nowadays, I cannot not go to church. I cannot not have Bible study on Wednesday. I just was bred to do that. So that's why one of the reasons why I pick Wednesdays to give you guys these messages, because I'm used to doing a Bible study anyway on Wednesday. So train up a child in the way they should go. Tell them about the stories of the Bible so that they can hear it and have it on their hearts, so that they can pass it down to their children and their children, down generations, so they can see the work of God in your life and in the Israelites' life over the centuries, and how God blessed his people so that they would know God for themselves. Amen. Amen, ladies and gentlemen. Until next Wednesday, this is Carlos Super signing out.